Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show. I enjoyed that opportunity to talk with Jeff Duncan. We do that every week, talk about the Saints. He's writing now the definitive book. It just turned into manuscript, working with Steve Gleason. Can't wait to talk more about that book as it rolls out. But again, we're lucky to have our friend Jeff Duncan and the team at NOLA.com at the Times-Picayune do such a good job. And it's odd for me, actually, to have been president of NOLA Media Group over with NOLA.com and Times-Picayune, and now being on this show, having Jeff on the show, talking about them. I just think it's terrific to be able to do that. Hey, if you're a regular listener, you know that every opportunity I get, I focus on the military community here in coastal Mississippi and in Mississippi in general, because the role that the military has played to help build better communities, the number of people who come into the military and actually retire here is, we're really a sought after retirement spot in America, and people come from all over the country to live here after they've been in the military. Of course, after a natural disaster, none of us can deny the role that the military plays in helping us recover. And so it's been terrific over the course of the last 3 years to stay in touch with the military community. One of my favorite sort of partners in crime as it relates to the military community is Brian Lamar. Brian was the public affairs manager, essentially that role, at the Naval Construction Battalion Center, the CB base. And as you know, he went to Japan. He lives in Okinawa now, doing a similar job there. And we stayed in touch with Brian in his journeys there. And he's written for SuperTalk Mississippi News along the way as well. And he will write more as we go forward. He's a terrific writer. I want to share with you a story that he wrote recently, though. This is just a couple of segments from it, and then I have a special guest who's going to be joining me. So here's what Brian wrote. On September the 13th at Chitos, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. We'll double check that here in just a second. Airport in northern Japan, a 6-person logistics task force prepped a space on the tarmac to receive personnel, vehicles, and equipment arriving on a C-17 to support Exercise Orient Shield. As First Lieutenant Keldron Bonds, the LTF officer in charge, and a Corinth, Mississippi native briefed his team while the aircraft rolled into view, a grin spread across his face. The C-17 was a Mississippi Air National Guard asset assigned to the 172nd Airlift Wing from its home base in Jackson, Mississippi, which was a surprise to Bond. The story goes on to say that this was maybe a historic moment that in a long period of time, some 25 years, that included Northwind, Orient Shield, and Yamasakura, a C-17 had not been hosted at the Chitos airport. So it was a really interesting moment. So he sends me the story. We talk about it. And one thing leads to another. And we agree. We had to invite Keldron Bonds to join us here on the show today. And so I'm thrilled that my friend Brian Lamar is sitting in the background. And Keldron Bond is with us as we speak. And we're going to talk about his experience in Japan. So anyway, Keldron, welcome to my show, my friend.
Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate the opportunity, and good morning to all the listeners.
Yeah, so you grew up in Corinth. What brought you into the military?
So initially, I joined because I wanted to go to school, and I knew I couldn't pay for it without joining the military. So that was the number one reason I joined, to pay for college.
And so what's your experience been a good one so far?
Oh, yes, sir. So far, so good. Just being especially being in Japan, it's just been a eye opener to the world. So it's been good.
Well, your role, your mission is to provide logistical support for the Pacific Theater, which is, as Brian and I have discussed here on the show many times, that's a very significant effort in the U.S. military these days. And he said of you, incidentally, that you're well respected by your peers and subordinates and superiors. He also said you're a good basketball player. Oh, yeah. So you must be doing that every chance you get, huh?
Oh, yes, sir. My free time, I enjoy playing basketball.
Listen, one of the things I talk to with people all the time, and Brian is no exception to this, and that is that usually when I find great leaders, as people like you, for example, we always find about you that you're also active in the community. You care about the community. You care about outreach in the community. Where did you get that from? Because that's what I hear that you are that as well.
Oh, yes, sir. So I got there primarily from my mom. She was a single parent, so she taught me just to be a man and respect myself and respect others. So that's what kind of got me to where I am today. Just her.
Well, it sounds like you had a great mother.
Oh, yes, sir, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, so yeah, that's so awesome to see. I have this I give my mother, who unfortunately passed away a couple of months ago. She had a wonderful life, I might add, but the wisdom that she was able to pass to me and my sisters, I don't know, we'll never be able to replace that wisdom, but we can carry it with us today, and which is what we do. So you've really enjoyed your time in Japan. You didn't feel like a fish out of water, huh? Because a lot of people, when they go overseas for the first time, it's like, wow, this is so different. But it's been a great experience for you, huh?
Oh, yes, sir. So I actually pray for stuff like this just to kind of get out of Mississippi and see the world. So when they told me I was getting assigned to Japan, I just looked at it as like God answering my prayers all those times.
So when that C-17 landed there, it was like it reminds you, I might say, that it's a small world, isn't it?
Yes, sir, for sure. Small world.
So tell me more about what you do.
So here in Japan, I'm a human resource officer. So I handle all like administrative actions as far as like leave, awards, and then also I handle like facilitating the hiring process of all our green suitors and DA civilians. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do you do? What do you like about Japan so far?
The culture, the food, how they treat us military folks. That'll be the top things, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. Brian said the same thing, that there is a tremendous respect for the U.S. military there. And in fact, the last time, now that I think about it, the last time that Brian and I visited, he was actually in Hiroshima. And we talked about that and the significance of it, and what we learned from it, and what his thoughts about that. But the strategic alignment that Japan and the U.S. have is so very important, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the role that you play in helping kind of drive that forward. So have you met other people other than the plane that comes in, the C-17? Have you met other people from Mississippi?
I have not so far in Japan, actually. So other than Miss Lamar, Mr. Brian.
Yeah, let me tell you, this is true. When I was at the publisher of the Sun Herald, we published the CB Courier and the Keesler News. So over the course of my career, I had the opportunity to work with lots of people who were engaged in the military base operations in terms of communication. When I was in Alabama, did the same thing across Alabama, and had responsibilities in my later years for multiple states and media companies in multiple states. So with that said, I can just say this: Brian's the best I've ever met. He is good at what he does. He is really good at what he does, and he's passionate about it. So you got that impression yourself too, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. Since day one, me and Mr. Lamar we click instantly, and just have respect for one another. And I enjoy working with him and reading his stories and everything. So,
well, when he discovered you, he immediately reached out to me to say, "You're not going to believe what happened today." And I just think that's so cool. Do you get a chance to just share your story with young people?
A lot of people they inbox me and ask me like my experience and then how I got to this point. So I enjoy giving that knowledge to them, because I wish I would have got that knowledge when I was in their shoes. So every chance I get when they ask me, I try to reach back out to them, let them know.
I know you do. I know you do. When you get out in the community, what do you like to do most?
Just kind of tell them my story, like kind of my testimony of how I got here, and that anything's possible regardless of where you're from. So
hey, one of the neat things that I've been connecting with Brian about, and I'd be interested to hear your point of view about this, is as you kind of get around and get to know the culture, what's your favorite food?
Sushi. So
really? You said that quick.
Yeah, so funny story. I told myself I would never eat raw sushi, like ever in life. And I got here, I had a soldier, like, they like, sir, come meet me with a Manami sushi. So I went there, we had lunch. I tried raw sushi for the first time and fell in love. So now I eat like sushi at least once a week. So
yeah, man. Let me tell you what, I love sushi too, and all of. Hey, when I was working for Knight Ridder, the company that used to own the Sun Herald, I was on a strategic effort for the company on the corporate level, and the guy who led that was head of auditing for Knight Ridder. In fact, what I'll do when we get on the other side, I'll tell you the quick story about how I came to understand the kind of food that you're enjoying now. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Keldron Bonds. I might even ask my buddy Brian to kind of stick his head in here for a second and say hello. So we'll continue the conversation when we get on the other side. Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show. I have First Lieutenant Keldron Bonds with us. He is from Corinth, Mississippi, actually, but he's stationed in Japan. And Brian Lamar, who I got to be very close with when he was head of public affairs at the CB base, ran into Keldron. And then, this incredible story of this C-17 from Jackson landing in Japan and unloading it. And as I mentioned at the first segment, it reminds us all how small a world we are. That's one of the beauties, Keldron, of having the opportunity to leave Mississippi and see the world that, as you pointed out, you prayed about. The opportunity to go over there and really understand from someone else's perspective how the world works. It really is kind of life-changing, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. 100%.
I mentioned when we went to break that I was involved in this effort, and the guy who led it was from Taiwan. And when we would travel to Philadelphia or Chicago or San Jose or Miami or wherever we went, he would always pick the restaurant, and then he would always order off the menu. And we had some of the best food that you've ever eaten, and sushi was always in the mix somewhere. And I love sushi. My daughter Tori loves it as well. We can't get enough of it. The rest of my family, for whatever reason, they don't like raw tuna or whatever. I think raw tuna is the best, don't you?
Absolutely, yes, sir. I love it.
Hey, so let's invite Brian into the conversation. Brian, why don't you squeeze in here real quick? And first of all, let me just say good morning or good afternoon. It's almost midnight there in Japan, right?
Yeah. So for your viewers, I don't normally show up to work in a t-shirt, but it was midnight and I'm on vacation, and I came in just because I wanted to tell the story about how Lieutenant Bonds did such a great job in the largest live fire bilateral exercise in Japan between the United States Army and the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, which that's their full title. We call them our Japanese Army counterparts, but their full name is Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force. The story that I wrote about Lieutenant Bonds here, basically, when I was out there at the Chitose Airport, and then I started seeing everybody coming out and seeing that C-17 land, I knew it was something special. But then when I looked over at Lieutenant Bonds, and I realized here's a Mississippi guy all the way on the other side of the planet. There's a Mississippi Air National Guard plane landing all the way on the other side of the planet, and it's the first time it's ever happened, and it just happened to be Mississippi to Mississippi connection. It felt special, so that's why I wanted to have him on the air.
Well, you did a fantastic job. In fact, we'll post the story you wrote in the comment section that goes with this video. But you're a good writer. I really enjoy your writing style. You have a terrific writing style, and you told that story well. And the thing about reading military stories is all these phrases and descriptions and that are very military. But you're able to capture that, and which a lot of those phrases I don't even know what they mean, but you're able to capture that. So a guy like me who's really not in tune with all these military terms can still enjoy the story because you captured the essence of the story.
When we're in our journalism school for the Department of Defense, our teachers always give us a phrase, write for Jethro, because if Jethro can understand it, everybody else can understand it.
Well, we used to say right from Bubba in the pickup truck,
There you go. Same thing.
Keldron, my nickname is Bubba. That's what my family calls me. But it's true. I mean, you knew this from the conversations we had in the past. But back when we were doing readership studies for the Sun Herald, the average readership level for newspaper readers is 8th grade. I mean, you think, gosh, that sounds terrible, but that's just normal. And for non-newspaper readers, imagine what it might be. So the fact is, writing where people can understand it and not writing over their head. You don't have to write to a college level. There's a college level to the style of writing that you have, because it's not easy to write in a simplistic way where you can still get the message across, and you do a great job at that. But it's interesting, when Keldron talked about you a few minutes ago, Brian, he literally smiled. He smiled. He has that impact on people, doesn't he, Keldron?
Absolutely, 100%. I love Mr. Brian. Yeah.
So, all right. So this is not about me. This is about Lieutenant Bonds. I want to say Lieutenant Bonds is one example of the hundreds of soldiers that serve here in the U.S. Army Japan, who are doing an outstanding job. And I just want to say the exercise that we just had, exercise Orient Shield 23, if it weren't for guys like Lieutenant Bonds standing out on the tarmac in the middle of the sun all day long, making sure that all this logistical stuff got taken care of like it's supposed to, these bilateral partnerships would dissolve. And so he's out there showing the professionalism of the United States Army, and it went off without a hitch. It was a great exercise. It's
no small task, too, is it, buddy? We're talking about, this is complicated stuff.
You had a lot of planning.
Yeah, a lot of planning went into it, sir. And it was, like I said, my day job is human resources, so it's kind of a 180 from what I'm accustomed to doing on a day-to-day basis. So.
Yeah, well, good. Hey, listen, I'm not surprised you're in human resources, incidentally, because organizational development is one of the most important things that the military or a company or even a family can do. The ability to communicate and have empathy and, motivate people. That's kind of what you bring to the table. But it's been a pleasure to meet you, my friend.
Oh, yes, sir. And like I said, I just thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, and listen, Brian, thank you so much. Keep it coming, Brian. Keep it coming, buddy. I appreciate it.
He's the only Mississippian I've met over here, so I don't know.
I think it's cool that we stay in touch while you're in Japan. But anyway, Lieutenant Keldron Bonds, it's been a pleasure, and Brian Lamar, again, as usual. Thank you, man. It's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too. Thanks.
Have a great day. Have a great weekend. It's going to be cool tomorrow morning. Enjoy that, and we'll see you on Monday.